Hi folks, this is the last video for eDesign in spring 2020. This will cover information from chapter 14, which is all about assemblies. Basically what that means is taking parts that you've already created in Autodesk Inventor and putting them together to make a complicated machine of some kind, or anything that you would assemble multiple parts together in any way. You can do that in Inventor with an assembly. Now, when you go to do the work for this lab, you'll notice on the Lab 13 page in Canvas, you do have 3 of these parts already created for you. You can download those by clicking on them, and I'm going to give instructions based on Windows because that's what I use, and it may be a little different for you for Mac, but when I go to my downloads folder, I can see those 3 files that I just downloaded. When you start up Autodesk Inventor, when you choose your project folder, right now I have mine set to eDesign, it shows you the location on your computer drive of where those files should go. So if you take those files that you just downloaded and cut or copy and browse to that location where your project files go and paste those files in there, now they will be in the right place for you to utilize them for your assembly. The only thing that you will have to make, you will have to make one part, and that's going to be the screw, the cap screw file. There are some instructions on the handout in Lab 13 that should help you get that done. You might notice that this revolution is slightly different from what they show in your book on page 14-7. This is going to be a little easier to use, and what you should do in order to make the cut through the middle, make this whole revolution, and then you can make a rectangular cut through the top middle based on the dimensions of the rectangular cut that they show in your book. Because if you just do the revolve the way that it is right here, you won't get a rectangular cut. I don't really care if you put the thread designs on the screw. Doesn't matter too much. If you want to mess around with that and just see the ways that Inventor can do that, that's fine. You do not need to do that. So once we start up Inventor, you can go to New Assembly, or I'm going to go to New up here and go to English and standard inch.iam. That's an assembly file. Create. And the first thing I'm going to do is place the first part in there. I'm going to go to place, and it'll automatically pull up, like I said, the place where you have your project files. So if you put all of your parts in the correct place, you'll find them right here. So base plate is the one that we are placing first. You'll notice that it kind of, if you zoom out, you can see it. Right now I'm facing the front of it. It just kind of bouncing around wherever. Right click and tell it that you want to place it grounded at origin. That means that this part, now if you wanted to, one nice thing about Inventor is it will allow you to place multiple copies of the same thing at once. So if you needed several base plates, you can place them all right now. Otherwise, just hit escape and you're done placing that. When you place it grounded at the origin, That means this part cannot move in any way. Anything else that you place into this assembly, you can use this as a reference point. Like we did in our sketches, you want everything to be fully constrained so that it does not move in any direction in space. So next we will add another component. So we're going to place, and we're going to place the bearing. And when you click on a file, you can see a preview on the left here, so you know whether you're choosing the right one. So I do want the bearing. Click open. And you can also, since it's not kind of facing the direction I want it to, if you right click, you can tell it to rotate. And if you see, you have options in X, Y, and Z. In this case, you can see which axis it is based on the little axis right here. You can also look down at the bottom left to remind yourself which axis is what. I do want to rotate this around the y-axis. So now it looks a little more like what I see in the book. I'm going to zoom out a little, and I'm just going to place it kind of randomly over here. I only need one of these, so I'm going to hit escape. And we're going to start doing a couple of constraints. So you can see your option up here for constrain, and there are several different versions of constraints. Your book does walk through those. I think it's a good idea to read through the explanations on page 1413 and 1414. So those will help you understand what you're doing with all of your constraints. But right now, we do want the mate constraint because we have got two faces we want to put together. And we want it just the regular mate, which takes two faces and has them facing in opposite directions. So basically, like when you're making a sandwich, you got your peanut butter side, your jelly side, smack them together. You can kind of see that in the image here. Your other option is the flush if you wanted both faces facing the same direction. But I'm going to choose now my selections. I want the top of this face, and then I'm going to shift and middle mouse to rotate around. I want the bottom of this one, and Inventor makes a nice little clicky noise to tell me that it's done something. And I can see that those surfaces are mated together. I hit escape, and that actually canceled the mate. And I forgot that it was going to do that because I'm used to using SolidWorks. So I'm going to click on constrain again, choose my surfaces again, and hit apply. That's the way that I get it to be finished, or hit OK. Now if I hit cancel, I can see that I can still move this around, and it looks like it goes pretty much anywhere. But if you change to a little better perspective, you can see that no matter where I move it, those two faces always are still stuck together. So that mate was successful. Now I want to add another mate because right now this isn't quite where I want it. So I'm going to hit constrain. We want mate again. And notice as you move around on a part, different things kind of show up as you hover over them. So in this case, I want the center line axes of this hole. So I'm going to click that one. And also this hole. So when that shows up, I'll click that. And we don't want it opposed, we want them to be aligned. And hit apply. I'll cancel that so we can zoom out. Now you can see if you look from the top down, that hole is aligned. And also, if you rotate it, you can see from the bottom as well. But it's not perfect yet because this can still rotate. So now we're fixed the faces together, we've got those holes together, and we want one more mate to keep this together. So we could do the same thing again with those axes like we just did. We're going to do what they show us in the book. We're going to use the constrain, and I'm going to mate, and I'm going to choose the flush constraint. And I want to mate the YZ plane of this guy with the XY plane of this guy. And actually that rotated it the way I didn't want. So I'm going to go constrain YZ XY. There we go. Now you can see if you change between the flush and mate, how it changes which face is which, or which direction they are mating with each other. And this is the one we want. So now we can zoom out, and we can see this will no longer move if I try to click and drag it, and it gives you a little no movement allowed, which is good. That's exactly what we want. Now we are going to add a third part. Go to place, and we want the collar this time. Hit open, just kind of place it up here. We only need one of them. And we are going to use a different mate. We're going to use constrain and the insert mate. So I want to insert this. You can see the direction that it's aiming into this. So if you select two circles, it will automatically make them concentric. And then in this case, I am going to use the lock rotation, which just makes it so you don't have to add another constraint. And I'll hit apply. And now this one can't move in any direction either because I've locked its rotation and I've made it those two pieces concentric. At this point, finally we can add our screws. So we're going to place the cap screw that presumably you made. Open. You can see its leg on its side. I'm going to tell it to rotate around the Z-axis, and it's upside down, so I'll rotate it a couple more times. That was around the Z-axis every time. And I'm just going to click out here somewhere, and I do need two of those, so I might as well put them both in. Now, we just showed how to use the insert constraint. We might as well use that again for these screws. So I'm going to choose this circle here and that one there. I am not going to lock the rotation this time, so I unchecked that, hit apply, and I still have the same type of mate selected here. And I'll do the same thing with this circle, or with this screw. So I'll click on that one, zoom around, and then on that one, and apply. Now you can see, if I look at it from the top, the screws are not going the same direction, and they are free to rotate. So what I will do is, I'm going to make it nice and easy. I'm going to constrain. I select the cap screw, go from its origin and the origin of the base plate. So as you highlight over planes, or as you hover over planes in this section, they highlight on the graphics window. So we want the XY plane, and on the screw, let's see, I want it to go along the same direction as the plane. So also the XZ plane on that screw, want those to be mated. That looks good. I'll hit apply, and I will do the same thing again. XY plane of the base plate, and the other screw, so I'll collapse that one. So cap screw number 2, open that up, and choose the XZ plane on that one. Now it's aligned. Hit apply and cancel to get out of that. Now you can see everything is aligned. So those are the basics of utilizing an assembly, and I am not going to walk through the entirety of the rest of chapter 14 with you. There are a few more things that you're going to need to do. They will show you how you can make changes to parts while they're in an assembly, and how you can create a new part within an assembly. The new part you're creating is a very simple rectangle that all you have to do is extrude it, so I think you'll be alright figuring that out on your own. Just walk through as the book shows you. You'll see how you create a new part within an assembly, how you can add mates to that part, constraints to that, and then finally they will show you how to do a drawing of an assembly. And again, it's very similar to what you've already done with drawings, so I don't think you'll have any problem with it. They will just show you finally how to create and edit a parts list. Again, the book walks through that very easily for you, so I don't think you'll have any problems with that. Make sure you read through on Canvas carefully about what you need to turn in for this lab, and it's your last one. So enjoy. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have a good week.